The champagne glass shattered against marble. Silence swallowed the room whole. Minjun's mother clutched her chest, eyes wide with shock, staring at the woman standing in their doorway. The woman everyone assumed was just another cleaner. The woman they invited as entertainment. The woman whose first words just destroyed everything they thought they knew. But we're getting ahead. Let me take you back to where it started, 4 days before everything exploded. Abena pushed her cleaning cart down the pristine hallway of Hansong Corporation's executive floor. Her dark skin gleamed under the harsh LED lights. Sweat formed tiny beads on her forehead, despite the aggressive air conditioning. Seoul's corporate towers stayed cold, always cold, like the people who worked inside them. She wore the standard gray uniform, hair tied back tight, eyes focused on the floor. Invisible. That's what 12 years in Korea had taught her. Stay invisible and you survive. Make noise and you become a problem. Problems get deported. Her phone buzzed, a message from her daughter back in Ghana. "Mama, school fees due next week. They said no payment, no exam." Abena's stomach twisted. She calculated quickly. 3 more night shifts, 2 weekend jobs. Maybe, just maybe, she could make it. Maybe. "Hey, you!" A sharp voice cut through her thoughts. Abena looked up. Park Ji-woo stood there, arms crossed, designer handbag dangling from her wrist. CEO's wife. Queen of everything she surveyed. Her face was sculpted by Seoul's best surgeons. Her clothes cost more than Abena earned in 6 months. Her smile carried venom. "Yes, ma'am?" Abena kept her voice soft, respectful. Always respectful. "My son is getting engaged this Saturday. Big family dinner at our estate." Ji-woo examined her manicured nails. "We're inviting you." Abena's heart stopped. "Ma'am? You heard me. Saturday, 7 o'clock, Hanam-dong Estate. Don't be late." Ji-woo's friends giggled behind her. 3 women, carbon, copies of wealth and cruelty. They whispered in Korean, thinking Abena couldn't understand. After 12 years, Abena understood everything, every insult, every joke, every cruel word they thought flew over her head. "This will be hilarious," one woman said in Korean. "Can you imagine her face when she walks in? What should we make her wear? Traditional African clothes? Oh God, the photos will be priceless. Minjun's fiancé will die laughing. His engagement dinner needed something memorable." Ji-woo pulled out a cream envelope. Thick, expensive paper. Gold lettering. She handed it to Abena like someone offering food to a stray dog. "Here, official invitation. Don't lose it. We actually want you there." Abena took the envelope. Her fingers trembled slightly. She knew this game. She'd seen it played before. Different countries, same script. Invite the help. Make them the entertainment. Watch them squirm. Laugh at their discomfort. Post it online. Viral content. Everyone wins. Except the one person who never had a choice. Are you hooked on besties? Let's see if Abena will beat them to their own game or if they'll succeed in humiliating her. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Ji-woo leaned closer. Her perfume was expensive, overwhelming. "Wear something nice. Try to look presentable. We have standards, you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. See you Saturday." Ji-woo turned, heels clicking away. Her friends followed, giggling like schoolgirls planning a prank. Their voices echoed down the hallway, mixing with Abena's heartbeat. Abena stood frozen. The envelope felt heavy, heavier than paper should feel. She waited until they disappeared around the corner. Then she looked down at the gold letters. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of Park Min-jun and Choi Yoona. Saturday, 7 p.m., Hanam-dong Estate. Formal attire required." Formal attire. She owned 2 dresses, one for church, one for funerals. Both bought second-hand from Dongdaemun Market. Neither qualified as formal by these people's standards. Neither would survive the judgment waiting at that estate. She should throw it away. She should pretend she never received it. She should protect herself from whatever humiliation they planned. but something stopped her. Something old, something she thought died years ago when she left Accra, when she left her family, when she left everything behind chasing promises of a better life. Pride. Dangerous, foolish pride. That evening, Abena sat in her tiny Goshiwan room, 4 walls barely wider than her mattress, a shared bathroom down the hall, a window that opened to another building's wall. This was Seoul for people like her, expensive, cramped, lonely. She held her phone, staring at a number she hadn't called in 8 years. Her finger hovered over the name, Kwame, her brother, the one who told her not to go, to Korea, the one who said she was chasing fantasies, the one she stopped talking to because his words felt like chains and she needed to fly. She pressed call. It rang, once, twice, 5 times. Hello? His voice sounded older, tired, but unmistakably him. Kwame, it's me. Silence stretched between continents, between years of hurt, between pride and desperation. Abena? His voice cracked. Is that really you? Yes. More silence. She heard him breathe, heard emotion he tried to hide. Why now? After all these years of nothing, why now? She closed her eyes. Because I need to remember who I was before I became invisible. The story spilled out. The invitation, the trap, the mockery waiting at that estate. Kwame listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sighed deeply. Don't go. Don't give them that satisfaction. If I don't go, they win. They'll say I knew my place, that I accepted being less than. If you go, they'll humiliate you. They'll make you regret it. Maybe. Abena looked at her reflection in the darkened window. Or maybe they'll remember something they forgot, that we were never meant to be invisible. Kwame was quiet, then, you sound like Mama. Tears pricked Abena's eyes. Their mother, strong, proud, educated, a woman who never bowed even when life tried to break her. You remember Ya? Kwame's voice changed, softer now. From university. Your friend who became a designer, the one who moved to Lagos? She's in Seoul right now, Fashion Week, some collaboration thing. She asked about you last month. I didn't know what to say. Abena's heart jumped. She's here? In Seoul? Yeah. Want me to send you her number? 20 minutes later, Abena stood outside a luxury hotel in Gangnam. Glass towers reflected city lights. Expensive cars lined the entrance. Doormen in suits opened doors for people who looked like they owned the world. Abena felt small, felt wrong, felt like an intruder. Abena! A voice called. Out. Warm. Familiar. Impossible. Ya ran across the lobby. Designer clothes, natural hair and beautiful locks, confidence radiating from every step. She grabbed Abena in a hug that felt like coming home. Look at you. Ya held her at arm's length. 12 years and you still have those eyes, those strong, stubborn eyes. They sat in the hotel cafe. Expensive coffee Abena would never normally order. Ya insisted, paid, listened as Abena explained everything. When Abena finished, Ya leaned back. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. So they want to make you their circus act? Yes. And you want to go anyway? I have to. Ya smiled slowly, dangerously. Then we're going to make sure they never forget this dinner. But first, I need to know something. Who were you before Korea? Before cleaning floors? Before becoming invisible? Who was Abena Mensah? The question hit like lightning. Abena's hands shook. She hadn't said her full name in years, hadn't claimed it, hadn't owned it. I was, her voice caught. I was someone. Tell me. So Abena talked about her father, Professor Mensah, renowned historian, about her mother, Dr. Mensah, surgeon, about growing up in a home filled with books, ideas, expectations, about getting her own degree in international relations, about working with NGOs, about plans to change the world, then about the coup, the political violence, Her father speaking out, the threats, the midnight escape, the separation, the promises to reunite that never materialized, about survival becoming more important than dreams, about degrees meaning nothing when you're undocumented, about pride dying slowly under the weight of invisibility. If you're still watching, do us a favor. Hit that like button. Share this story. Let's show the world that some stories need to be told. Ya listened to everything. Her eyes grew wet, but she didn't interrupt. Your parents, Ya finally said, do they know you're cleaning floors in Seoul? They think I work in international business consulting. Abena. I know. Abena wiped her eyes, but telling them the truth means admitting I failed, means admitting everything I sacrificed was for nothing. Ya reached across the table, took Abena's hands. Listen to me very carefully. You didn't fail. You survived. There's no shame in survival, but there is shame in forgetting who you are, in letting people make you small, in accepting their version of your story. So what do I do? Ya's smile returned, sharp, determined. We remind them that African women bow to no one. We show up to their little dinner. We walk in like queens, and we make them remember that respect isn't given based on job titles. It's demanded by how you carry yourself. I can't afford... Stop. Ya squeezed her hands. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because that woman who just told me her story, that's not a cleaner. That's royalty who forgot her crown. And I'm very good at reminding royalty of who they are. The next 3 days blurred together. Ya's hotel suite transformed into a war room, dresses everywhere, fabrics from 3 continents, jewelry laid out like battle armor. Ya worked like a woman possessed, sketching, cutting, sewing, creating. This isn't just a dress, Ya explained as she worked. This is a statement. Every thread, every color, every choice is deliberate. When you walk into that house, before you say a single word, this dress will speak for you. Friday evening, Ya stepped back. Try it on. The dress was unlike anything Abena had ever seen. Deep royal blue, the color of midnight oceans. The fabric was traditional kente cloth, but tailored with modern precision. Gold threads wove through it, catching light. The cut was elegant, sophisticated. The shoulders were strong. The whole design screamed power, heritage, pride. Abena put it on, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize herself. No, that was wrong. She recognized herself. The self she buried. The self she forgot. The self that existed before survival became her only goal. Oh God, Ya whispered, you're perfect. But Ya wasn't done. She styled Abena's hair in an elegant updo, traditional but contemporary. Gold earrings, simple but striking. A single gold necklace with an Adinkra symbol, Sankofa, the bird looking backward while moving forward. Return to your roots to move ahead. Saturday arrived too quickly. Abena's stomach churned all day. Doubt crept in like cold fog. What was she doing? Who did she think she was? They would destroy her, mock her. She should cancel, disappear, stay safe in her invisibility. But then she looked at the dress hanging in her tiny room. She looked at her reflection. She thought about her daughter watching from Ghana, about her parents who sacrificed everything, about every person who ever made her feel small. No, not today. Today she reclaims herself. The taxi pulled up to Hanamdong Estate at 6:55 p.m. Abena's hands were ice. The driver, an older Korean man, looked at her in the rearview mirror. Big event? He asked in Korean. Yes. You look nervous. I am. He smiled kindly. Whatever it is, walk in with your head high. People respect confidence more than anything else. She paid him, stepped out. The estate loomed before her. 3 stories of modern architecture, floor-to-ceiling windows glowing with warm light. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway. Everything screamed wealth, power, exclusivity. Abena took 1 breath, 2, 3. Then she walked. The front door was open. Music drifted out. Conversation, laughter. She stepped inside. Her heels clicked against marble floors. The foyer was massive. Chandelier hung overhead. Fresh flowers everywhere. Everything white and gold and perfect. A server approached. Young Korean woman in black and white uniform. She looked at Abena with confusion. "Can I help you?" "I'm invited. Park family dinner." The server's eyes widened. She looked Abena up and down, clearly confused, clearly uncertain. "Wait here, please." She disappeared. Abena stood alone in the foyer. Voices drifted from deeper in the house. She caught fragments, Korean mixing with English, talk of business deals, real estate, stock portfolios, the language of people who never worried about school fees or rent or survival. Footsteps approached. Multiple people. Abena straightened her spine, lifted her chin. Her heart hammered, but her face stayed calm. Ji-woo appeared first. Her smile was predatory. Behind her came 3 other women, the same ones from the office, all dressed in expensive hanbok traditional Korean dress. Behind them, men in suits, and one younger man. Handsome, sharp eyes, Park Min-jun, the son, the groom-to-be. Ji-woo stopped. Her smile faltered, just slightly, just enough for Abena to notice. "Oh," Ji-woo recovered quickly, "you actually came, and you're so dressed up." Her friends giggled nervously, but the sound was different from before, less confident, more uncertain. "Thank you for inviting me," Abena said. Her voice was clear, unshaken, perfect Korean with a slight accent that somehow made it more elegant. Min-jun stepped forward. His eyes were curious. "I'm sorry, I don't think we've met." "No," Abena smiled politely. "We haven't. I work at AfroSeoul Corporation." "In what department?" Silence stretched. Ji-woo's smile grew sharper. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the reveal, the humiliation. "I clean the executive floors," Abena said simply. No shame, no apology, just fact. The reaction was immediate. The women gasped. The men looked confused. Min-jun's face showed surprise, but something else too. Something that looked almost like respect. "You're a cleaner?" one of Ji-woo's friends said in Korean. "And you showed up here? Dressed like that?" "Is there a dress code I missed?" Abena responded in perfect Korean. The invitation said formal attire. I wore formal attire. Ji-woo's face flushed. "Well, yes, but we expected something more, appropriate for someone of your position." "And what position would that be?" Abena's voice stayed soft, polite, but her eyes were steel. "The position of a woman attending a dinner she was invited to, or the position you assigned to me in your mind?" The air changed. Tension crackled like electricity. The men shifted uncomfortably. Min-jun watched Abena with growing interest. Before Ji-woo could respond, an older voice called from the next room. "Are our guests arriving? Min-jun, bring them in." "Yes, father," Min-jun called back. He gestured to Abena. "Please join us." They moved into the main dining area. A massive table dominated the room, set for 20 people. Crystal glasses, gold-rimmed plates, flower arrangements that probably cost more than Abena's monthly rent. At the head of the table sat an older man, distinguished, powerful, park chairman, founder of AfroSeoul Corporation. Next to him sat his wife, chairman's wife, a woman in her 60s, elegant, traditional, watching everything with sharp eyes. "Father, mother," Min-jun said, "some guests have arrived." The chairman looked up. His eyes landed on Abena. He paused. Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Confusion? Abena couldn't read it. "And you are?" he asked in Korean. "Abena Mensa, sir. Your daughter-in-law invited me." Ji-woo jumped in quickly. "She works at the company. I thought it would be nice to include someone from all levels of the organization. Show our appreciation for every employee." The lie was smooth, practiced, but transparent to anyone paying attention. The chairman's wife studied Abena silently. Her expression was unreadable. Years of high society had taught her to hide every thought, but her eyes missed nothing. They traced the dress, the jewelry, the way Abena carried herself, and something in those eyes changed, sharpened. "Please sit," the chairman said. He gestured to a chair far from the head of the table. The seating arrangement was deliberate, a statement of hierarchy. Abena sat. Others began filtering in, more family members, friends, business associates, and finally, the guest of honor, Choi Yuna, Min Jun's fiancée, a woman who looked like she stepped out of a K-drama, perfect skin, designer dress, diamond ring that could blind someone. Yuna took her seat next to Min Jun. She glanced at Abena, did a double take, leaned toward Jiwoo. They whispered. Yuna's eyes widened. She smiled, the same predatory smile as her future mother-in-law. Dinner began. Servers brought out course after course, expensive food, artfully plated, the kind of meal where every bite cost more than some people's daily wage. Conversation flowed in Korean and English, talk of business expansion, political connections, society gossip. Abena ate in silence, observing, listening, becoming invisible again, but this time by choice, this time as strategy. "So," Yuna's voice cut through the chatter. She spoke in English, looking directly at Abena. "I heard you work at Hanseong. What exactly do you do there?" Every conversation stopped. All eyes turned to Abena. The trap was set. The entertainment portion of the evening had begun. Abena put down her fork carefully, met Yuna's eyes. "I maintain cleanliness on the executive floors." "Oh, so you're a cleaner?" Yuna's voice dripped with false sweetness. "How fascinating. And how did you end up in Korea? This must be so different from where you're from." "I came for opportunities." "And you found them in cleaning?" Jiwoo jumped in, barely hiding her smile. "That must have been quite a change from whatever you did back home." The chairman shifted uncomfortably. Even he seemed to sense this was crossing lines, but he didn't intervene, didn't stop it. Abena took a sip of water. Her hand didn't shake. "Yes, quite different from my previous work." "Oh, you worked before." Yuna leaned forward. "Doing what?" This was it, the moment of truth. Abena could stay small, could play along, could be their entertainment, or she could choose differently. She looked around the table, at all these people who believed their wealth made them superior, who believed money equaled worth, who believed they had the right to judge, to mock, to diminish. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Never let anyone make you ashamed of who you are." "I worked with the United Nations Development Program," Abena said clearly, "focusing on economic policy in West Africa. Before that, I was with an international NGO addressing education gaps in conflict zones. I have a master's degree in international relations from the University of Ghana. My thesis focused on economic migration patterns and their socio-political impacts." The silence that followed was deafening, absolute, complete. Every fork stopped moving. Every glass stayed suspended in air. Every face showed shock. But Abena wasn't done. 12 years of silence were breaking. 12 years of invisibility were ending. "My father," she continued, her voice steady as mountains, "was Professor Kofi Mensah. He chaired the Department of African History at University of Ghana. He advised 3 governments on cultural preservation. He wrote 7 books that are still taught in universities across 4 continents. My mother was Dr. Amma Mensah, chief surgeon at Korlebu Teaching Hospital. She performed over 3,000 successful operations. She trained 2 generations of surgeons." Jiwoo's face had gone white. Yuna looked like she'd been slapped. Minjun stared with his mouth slightly open. "Political violence forced my family into exile," Abena continued. "We scattered, survived however we could. I came to Korea with temporary documentation that expired. I had a choice: Go back to a country still unstable, still dangerous, or stay here, work whatever job I could find, and send money to family members who depended on me. I chose survival. I chose family. I chose to sacrifice my pride so others could live. She stood slowly. The dress caught light. The kente cloth shimmered gold. I clean your floors because I have to, not because I am less than you, not because I lack education or ability or worth. I clean your floors because life is complicated and survival requires sacrifice, and sometimes dignity means doing what you must rather than what you want. The chairman's wife made a sound, a small gasp. Her hand went to her throat. Her face had gone pale. But I never stopped being who I am, Abena continued. I never stopped being Professor Mensah's daughter, Dr. Mensah's daughter. I never stopped being a woman who once advised policymakers and built programs and made a difference. I just became invisible to people who only see worth in titles and money and social position. She looked directly at Jiwoo. You invited me here to humiliate me, to make me your entertainment, to laugh at the poor African, cleaner, who didn't know her place. But you made a mistake. You assume that because you cannot see someone's worth, it doesn't exist. You assume that because someone's circumstances changed, their value diminished. You were wrong. Jiwoo tried to speak. No words came out. Then something unexpected happened. The chairman's wife stood abruptly. Her chair scraped against floor. Her hands shook. She stared at Abena like seeing a ghost. Mensah, she whispered. Professor Kofi Mensah? Abena turned to her. Yes, that was my father. The older woman's eyes filled with tears. 1985, University of Ghana, visiting scholar program. Abena's heart stopped. What? I was Park Sunmi, before I married, before I became this. She gestured at herself, at the house, at everything. I was a graduate student, studying African history. Your father supervised my research. He was kind when others weren't. He saw me as a scholar when others saw me as a woman who didn't belong. He changed my life. The room felt like it was spinning. Abena couldn't breathe. You knew my father? I knew your whole family. Sunmi's voice broke. Your mother delivered my colleague's baby, saved both their lives. Your parents hosted us, fed us, treated us like family. They showed me what grace looked like, what dignity looked like, what humanity looked like regardless of race or country or background. She moved around the table, stood before Abena. Tears streamed down her face. I came back to Korea, got married, got comfortable, got rich, and somewhere along the way I forgot everything your parents taught me. I forgot that worth isn't measured in money, that dignity isn't awarded by social position. I forgot to see people. Sunmi turned to her family. Her voice grew hard. Do you understand what you've done? This woman's family shaped who I am, shaped how I think, shaped every success I built my life on. And you invited her here to mock her, to humiliate her, to make her a joke. Jiwoo shrunk in her seat. Mother, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You didn't care. You saw someone you believed was beneath you and decided they existed for your amusement. Sunmi's voice was ice. You shame this family. You shame me. You shame everything I tried to teach you about respect and dignity and seeing the humanity in every person. She turned back to Abena, took both her hands. I am so sorry. For what they planned, for what they did, for not recognizing you, for becoming someone who could raise a son in a home where this kind of cruelty was possible. Abena's tears finally fell. Mrs. Park. Sunmi, please, call me Sunmi, like you would have when you were a child. I don't remember you. I remember you. You were 7 years old, bright, curious, full of questions. Your father was so proud. He said you would change the world. Sunmi smiled through her tears. And you did. Maybe not the way he imagined, but surviving with dignity, choosing family over pride, Sacrificing your dreams so others could live? That's changing the world in the way that matters most. The chairman cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable, ashamed. Miss Mensah, I apologize. On behalf of my family, this is unacceptable. Minjun stood, walked to Abena. I am so sorry. I had no idea what my mother planned. If I had known... You would have stopped it? Abena asked quietly. Or would you have found it amusing like everyone else in this room? He had no answer. The truth was written on his face. He probably would have laughed, would have taken photos, would have posted them online for internet points. Yuna remained seated, silent, her face red with embarrassment and anger. She glared at Jiwoo like this was somehow her fault. Their perfect evening had imploded. If you're feeling this story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling us your thoughts. This is the kind of content we need more of. Sunmi kept holding Abena's hands. What happened to your parents? Are they... My father passed 5 years ago. Heart attack. My mother is still in Accra. I send her money every month. She doesn't know I clean floors. She thinks I work in consulting. Does she know about your daughter? Abena's eyes widened. How did you... A mother knows. I can see it in your eyes. The sacrifice. The determination. You're sending money home not just for your mother, but for someone else. Someone younger. My daughter. She's 12. Lives with my mother. Goes to school. Has opportunities I want her to keep. Sunmi nodded slowly. Everything you do is for her. Everything. Your father would be proud. Your mother is proud, whether she knows the full truth or not. Sunmi squeezed her hands tighter. And I am proud to have known your family. Proud that their daughter is standing in my home, reminding us all what strength really looks like. She turned to the chairman. We need to talk about many things, about how we've raised our children, about what values we've actually taught them, about who we've become. The chairman nodded slowly. He looked older suddenly, tired. Yes, we do. Sunmi looked at Jiwoo. You will apologize, properly. Not because you were caught, but because you understand what you did was cruel and wrong. Jiwoo stood reluctantly. She couldn't meet Abena's eyes. I'm sorry, it was meant to be funny. I didn't think... That's exactly right. Sunmi cut her off. You didn't think. You didn't think about her as a person. You didn't think about consequences. You didn't think about anything beyond your own amusement. Jiwoo's face crumpled. Real tears fell. Whether from shame or embarrassment or actual remorse, Abena couldn't tell. Abena looked at all of them, at this family drowning in wealth and choking on their own cruelty, at these people who had everything except the one thing that mattered, basic human decency. I accept your apology, Abena said quietly. Not because you deserve it, but because carrying anger is heavy, and I'm tired of carrying heavy things. She turned to Sunmi. Thank you for remembering my family, for honoring their memory, for seeing me when I had become invisible. Will you stay? Sunmi asked. For dinner. We could talk, properly. I want to hear everything. About your life, about your daughter, about your mother, about your father's last years. Abena wanted to say yes. Part of her craved that connection, that link to her past, to someone who knew her family when they were whole, when they were happy, when the world made sense. But another part of her knew. This wasn't her world anymore. Maybe it never was. Maybe it never could be. I can't, Abena said gently. This is your family dinner, your son's engagement celebration. I don't belong here. You belong wherever you choose to be, Sunmi said firmly, and you would honor us with your presence. Abena smiled, a real smile. The first genuine smile she'd felt in years. Perhaps another time, in a different setting, just us, where we can talk without an audience, without expectations, without all of this. She gestured at the elaborate table, the expensive food, the wealth dripping from every surface. Sunmi understood. She nodded. Yes, that would be better. Give me your number. I will call you. We will have tea, like civilized people, like friends. They exchanged numbers. Abena prepared to leave. As she turned, Minjun spoke. Wait, I have to ask. Why did you come? You knew what my mother planned. You knew it was a trap. Why walk into it? Abena looked at him, really looked at him, saw a young man who had everything handed to him, who never questioned his privilege, who never had to fight for dignity because he was born with it guaranteed. Because for 12 years I made myself invisible to survive. I accepted being less than so I could endure. But there comes a point where survival isn't enough, where you have to choose between existing and living. I came tonight because I was tired of existing. I came to remind myself that I'm more than my circumstances, more than my job, more than what people assume when they look at my skin and my uniform. She paused. Let the words settle. And I came to remind all of you that every person you dismiss, every person you mock, every person you treat as less than carries a story you cannot imagine, carries sacrifices you would never make, carries strength you will never need because you were born on the easy side of life. Minjun had no response. What could he say? What could any of them say? Abena walked to the door. Her heels clicked against marble. The sound echoed through the silent house. Every eye followed her. But this time, the attention felt different. Not mockery, not pity. Something closer to respect. Or maybe just recognition. Recognition that they had underestimated her. That they had judged wrong. That their assumptions revealed more about them than about her. At the door, she paused, turned back. Mrs. Park, Sunmi. When you call, I would like to tell you something. Something about your father's last years. Something I think you should know. Sunmi's eyes widened. My father? You knew my father? Not personally, but my father did. They corresponded, for years, about African-Korean educational exchanges, about building bridges between our worlds. Your father supported my father's work, financially, academically, morally. He was a good man, and my father always said he learned as much from your father as your father learned from him. Sunmi's hand flew to her mouth. Fresh tears fell. I never knew. He never told me. Perhaps he was waiting for the right time, or perhaps he knew you would find out when you needed to know. Abena smiled softly. Either way, our families were connected long before tonight. Long before this dinner, long before any of this. Some connections transcend time and circumstance. They wait quietly until the moment they're needed, until they can teach us something we forgot, until they can remind us of who we're supposed to be. She opened the door, stepped into the cool evening air. The taxi she'd called was waiting. She slid into the back seat. Where to? The driver asked. Abena looked back at the house, at the warm lights, at the wealth, at the family inside trying to process what just happened. She thought about her tiny room, her simple life, her daughter waiting in Ghana, her mother who didn't know the whole truth, her father watching from wherever the dead watch from. Home, she said simply. Take me home. The driver pulled away. Seoul's lights blurred past, the city that had demanded her invisibility, the city that had required her silence, the city that had taken her dreams and given her survival in exchange. But tonight, something shifted. Tonight, she reclaimed a piece of herself. Tonight, she reminded the world that she existed, that she mattered, that she was more than the sum of her circumstances. Her phone buzzed, a message from Ya. Girl, you better call me right now and tell me everything. Abena smiled. She would call. She would tell the story. She would laugh and cry and process what just happened. But first, she needed this moment, this quiet ride through the city, this space to breathe, this time to feel. Another message came through, an unknown number. This is Sunmi. Thank you for tonight, for being brave, for being honest, for being exactly who you are. I will call you soon. We have much to discuss, and perhaps, if you're willing, I would like to help. Not because you need charity, but because that's what your father did for me. He helped when I needed it. He gave opportunities when doors were closed. Let me honor his memory by doing the same. Abena read the message twice, 3 times. Help. The word felt strange, foreign. She'd spent so long refusing help, refusing to be seen as weak or needy or less than. But maybe help wasn't weakness. Maybe accepting help was its own kind of strength. Maybe letting people who wanted to give could honor both the giver and the receiver. She typed back, I would like that. Not just for me, but for my daughter, for my mother, for everyone still trapped in the spaces I've been trapped in. If you truly want to help me build something bigger, something that creates pathways for others, something that turns individual survival into collective opportunity. The response came quickly. Yes, exactly, yes. That's what your father would want. That's what we should do. Call me tomorrow. We'll start planning. The taxi pulled up to her Goshawan. The building looked shabby compared to where she'd just been. 4 stories of cramped rooms, shared facilities, thin walls that transmitted every sound. Home to people like her, people surviving, people invisible, people carrying stories nobody asked to hear. She paid the driver, climbed the stairs, reached her door. Inside, everything was exactly as she left it. Small, simple, honest. This room held no pretense, no performance, no need to be anything other than exactly who she was. She hung up the dress carefully. It felt sacred now. Not just fabric and thread, but armor, shield, declaration. She would keep it, would remember this night, would tell her daughter someday about the evening her mother stopped being invisible. Her phone rang. International number. Ghana. Her heart jumped. Her daughter. Calling at this hour meant something urgent. Hello? Mama! Her daughter's voice exploded with joy. Mama, I have news. The school, they said someone paid my fees. All of them. For the whole year. And they're giving me a scholarship. A full scholarship for secondary school. Mama, did you do this? How did you do this? Abena's mind raced. She hadn't paid. She was still figuring out how to make this month's payment. Baby, slow down. What exactly happened? They called Grandma today. Said an anonymous donor paid everything. Everything, Mama, and there's more. They want me to join this special program, this leadership academy thing. They said I qualified, that someone recommended me, that I have potential. Mama, what's happening? Abena's phone buzzed with another message. Soon me. I hope you don't mind. I made some calls. Your daughter deserves every opportunity. This is just the beginning. Tears streamed down Abena's face. Not sad tears, not angry tears. Something else entirely. Relief, gratitude, hope. The kind of hope she'd stopped letting herself feel. Mama, are you there? Are you crying? Yes, baby, I'm crying. Happy tears. So many happy tears. Is this real? Is this really happening? Yes, it's real. It's happening. And you're going to work hard and make the most of every single opportunity. You understand me? Yes, Mama, I will. I promise. I'll make you proud. You already make me proud every single day just by being who you are. They talked for an hour about school, about dreams, about the future that suddenly looked different, looked possible. When they finally hung up, Abena sat in the dark, let the weight of the day settle, let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. A knock on her door startled her. She opened it. Her neighbor stood there, Mrs. Kim, an older Korean woman who lived alone, who rarely spoke, who Abena had helped countless times with small things, carrying groceries, translating documents, just being kind. I heard you on the phone, Mrs. Kim said in Korean. Sounded like good news. Yes, very good news. Mrs. Kim smiled, held out a small package. I made extra japchae, thought you might be hungry. The simple gesture broke something in Abena, made her cry again. Mrs. Kim immediately looked worried. Did I do something wrong? No, you did something very right. Thank you for seeing me, for being kind, for treating me like a person. Mrs. Kim looked confused. You are a person. Why would I treat you differently? The simple question held such power, such truth. Why indeed? Why did some people see her and others look through her? Why did some people treat her with dignity and others with contempt? Why did her worth change depending on who was looking? It didn't. Her worth never changed, only their ability to recognize it. Come in, Abena said. Have tea with me. Let me tell you about my day. They sat together, two women from opposite sides of the world, different languages, different cultures, different everything, but both understanding what it meant to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be underestimated. Mrs. Kim listened to the whole story. When Abena finished, the older woman nodded slowly. Good, she said simply. Good that you reminded them. People forget too easily, forget that everyone matters, forget that circumstances don't define worth, forget to see. She poured more tea. My husband was a janitor. People treated him like furniture, like he didn't exist. But he was smart, kind, funny. He raised 3 children, sent them all to university, gave them opportunities he never had. When he died, hundreds of people came to his funeral, all these fancy people, businessmen, politicians. They all had stories about how he helped them, how he saw them when they were nobody, how he treated everyone the same regardless of position or money. She looked at Abena directly. You are like him. You see people. You treat them with dignity. That's rare. That's precious. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that your kindness has value, that your strength has power, that your story has meaning. They sat together until late, talking, sharing, connecting. When Mrs. Kim finally left, Abena lay on her bed, stared at the ceiling, thought about everything that happened, everything that changed, everything still the same. Tomorrow she would still wake up early, still put on her uniform, still push her cleaning cart, still wipe down floors and empty trash. Her circumstances hadn't magically changed. She wasn't suddenly wealthy, wasn't suddenly powerful, wasn't suddenly anything different from this morning. But something had changed, something fundamental, something that couldn't be measured in money or position or status. She remembered who she was. She reclaimed her story. She refused to be invisible. And sometimes, that's enough. Sometimes, that's everything. Her phone buzzed one more time. A message from Min Jun. I've been thinking about what you said, about every person carrying a story, about assumptions revealing more about us than about others. You're right. I've lived my whole life never questioning my privilege, never seeing the people around me, never considering that my comfort came at someone else's cost. I want to do better. I want to be better. Would you be willing to meet, to talk? Not as employer and employee, but as people. I want to learn. If you're willing to teach. Abena stared at the message. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to protect herself from more potential hurt, to maintain boundaries, to keep safe. But another part of her recognized something important. Change rarely happens in grand gestures. It happens in small moments, in willingness to learn, in humility to admit ignorance, in courage to grow. She typed back, yes, I'm willing. But understand something. I'm not your teacher. I'm not your guide to feeling better about your privilege. I'm just a person with a story. If you're truly willing to listen, to learn, to change, then we can talk. But it has to be real. Not performance, not guilt management. Real. His response came immediately. Real, I promise. Thank you for giving me this chance. Abena put down her phone, closed her eyes, Let sleep pull her under. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own struggles, its own moments of choice. But tonight, she had won something back, something precious, something powerful. She had won herself. 3 months later, Abena stood in front of a different building. Not a corporate tower, not a luxury estate. Something else entirely. A community center in Itaewon, Seoul's most diverse neighborhood. Home to people from everywhere. People who often existed in the same invisible spaces Abena knew so well. The sign above the door read, in Korean and English, the Mensa Center for Migrant Opportunity and Dignity. Sunmi stood beside her. Your father would be proud. I hope so. They had worked for months, planning, fundraising, building, creating something that provided what Abena wished she'd had when she first arrived in Korea: language classes, legal support, job training, community, dignity. The center would open next week. Already 50 people had signed up for programs, 50 invisible people ready to be seen. Min Jun had helped. He'd changed in the months since that dinner, started actually seeing the people around him, started questioning systems, started using his privilege to open doors instead of closing them. He was here today helping set up chairs for the opening ceremony. Jiwoo had not changed. She and Min Jun were no longer speaking. The engagement to Yuna had collapsed. Some relationships couldn't survive truth. But that was okay. Not everyone was ready to grow. Not everyone wanted to see. Some people would stay comfortable in their ignorance. That was their choice. Their loss. Abena's phone rang, her daughter calling from Ghana. She'd arrived in Seoul yesterday for the center's opening. Her first time meeting her mother in 3 years. Her first time seeing where her mother lived, where her mother fought, where her mother survived. Mama, where are you? At the center. Come join us. 20 minutes later, her daughter burst through the door. 12 years old, but looking older. Confident, bright, full of potential. She ran to Abena, hugged her tight. Mama, this is amazing. You built this? We built this. Me and Sunmi and Min Jun and Mrs. Kim and dozens of other people who believed invisible people deserve to be seen. Her daughter looked around, at the classrooms, at the library, at the space created for community, for connection, for healing. This is because of what happened at that dinner, isn't it? The story you told me about, when you reminded them who you were. Yes and no. The dinner was a catalyst, but this was always inside me. This was always what I was meant to do. I just forgot for a while. Forgot that survival and purpose can coexist. Forgot that I could be both a cleaner and a change maker. Forgot that my circumstances didn't define my capability. Sunmi joined them. Your mother is extraordinary, but I think you already know that. Abena's daughter smiled. I do. I always did. Even when she was far away. Even when I didn't understand why. I knew my mama was special. The opening ceremony began. People filled the space. Migrants from Nigeria, Philippines, Vietnam, Bangladesh, everywhere. People who knew what it meant to be invisible, who understood the weight of survival, who carried stories nobody asked to hear. Abena stood at the front, looked at all these faces, saw herself in every single one. I came to Korea 12 years ago, she began. I came with dreams, with education, with purpose. And life taught me hard lessons. Life showed me that dreams don't shield you from reality, that education doesn't protect you from circumstance, that purpose sometimes has to wait while survival takes priority. She paused. Let the words settle. For years, I was invisible. I cleaned floors. I kept quiet. I accepted being less than because I needed to survive. But invisibility has a cost. It eats away at who you are. It makes you forget. It makes you small. Until one day, someone tried to make me entertainment, tried to mock me publicly, tried to remind me that I didn't belong in certain spaces. And that moment gave me a choice. I could accept their definition of me, or I could remind myself and them of who I really was, who I had always been, who I would always be regardless of my job or my circumstances. She looked around the room, at Sunmi, at Min Jun, at Mrs. Kim, at her daughter, at all these people who saw her. This center exists because of that choice, because I chose to remember, chose to reclaim, chose to build something that would help others remember too. We are not invisible. We are not less than. We are not defined by our circumstances. We carry stories. We carry strength. We carry worth that exists whether anyone recognizes it or not. Applause erupted. Not polite, not measured. Real, honest, powerful. Applause from people who understood, who lived it, who knew. After the ceremony, as people mingled and explored the center, Sunmi pulled Abena aside. "I have something for you." She handed over a thick envelope. "What is this?" "Letters, between my father and yours. I found them in my father's study after he died. Decades of correspondence, about education, about bridging cultures, about seeing humanity across differences. They were friends, real friends, and they built something together, a foundation for exchange, for understanding." Sunmi's eyes were wet. The foundation died when they did, but reading these letters, I realized their dream didn't have to die with them. We could revive it, expand it, make it bigger. This center is the first step, but imagine what we could do. Exchange programs, scholarships, cultural initiatives, building the bridges they dreamed of. Abena opened the envelope, saw her father's handwriting, saw his words, his thoughts, his dreams. Tears fell freely. "He would love this," she whispered. "He would love that his daughter and Sunmi's daughter are continuing what they started." "Not daughter," Sunmi corrected gently. "Friend. We're not connected through our fathers anymore. We're connected through choice, through mutual respect, through shared purpose. That's stronger than any inherited relationship." Abena hugged her, held her tight, let herself feel the weight of connection, of purpose, of being seen. As the sun set over Seoul, Abena stood outside the center, her daughter beside her. The city lights sparkled. The same city that had demanded her invisibility, the same city that had taken her dreams, the same city that had given her survival. But now, she was taking something back, taking up space, taking her place, taking her power. "What are you thinking about, Mama?" her daughter asked. "I'm thinking about how life is strange, how sometimes our lowest moments prepare us for our highest purpose, how sometimes being broken down is necessary before we can rebuild into something stronger, how sometimes invisibility teaches us to see others who are invisible." She looked at her daughter. "And I'm thinking about you, about the life you'll have, the opportunities, the choices. I'm thinking about how my sacrifices created your possibilities and how that makes every hard moment worth it." Her daughter leaned against her. "When I grow up, I want to be like you." "No, baby. When you grow up, I want you to be better than me. I want you to have easier, to fight less, to struggle less. That's what parents do. We take the hard so our children can have the easier. But I want to be strong like you. You already are, just by existing, just by thriving despite everything, just by being exactly who you are." They stood together, mother and daughter, survivor and beneficiary, 2 generations connected by sacrifice and love and hope. Behind them, the center glowed with warm light. People were inside, learning, connecting, building, being seen. This was just the beginning, the first step, the foundation. But foundations matter. They determine what can be built on top. And this foundation was strong, built on dignity, on respect, on the unshakable truth that every person matters. Abena's phone buzzed, a message from someone she didn't know. "I heard about the Mensa Center. I'm a migrant worker from Cambodia. I've been invisible in this city for 8 years. Can I come? Can I be part of this? Can I be seen? Abena smiled, typed back quickly, Yes, come. You belong here. You've always belonged. We've just been waiting for you to remember. She looked up at the sky, spoke to her father wherever he was. We did it, Papa. We built something that matters. We turned pain into purpose. We made invisible people visible. I hope that makes you proud. I hope that honors your memory. I hope that continues your work. The breeze picked up, gentle, warm, almost like an answer, almost like approval, almost like her father saying, I'm proud. I've always been proud. You never stopped being my daughter. You never stopped being who I raised you to be. You just forgot for a while, but you remembered, and that's what matters. Abena took her daughter's hand. Come, on. Let's go inside. There's so much work to do, so many people to help, so many stories to hear, so many lives to change. Including yours? Her daughter asked. Abena paused, thought about it. Thought about the woman she was 12 years ago, the woman she became, the woman she was now, all different, all the same, all her. My life already changed, she said softly. The moment I chose to remember who I was, the moment I refused to stay invisible, the moment I walked into that dinner and reminded the world that I exist, that I matter, that I am more than my circumstances. She smiled, a real smile, a free smile, a smile that carried no weight except joy. But yes, my life is still changing. Every day, every moment, every person I meet, every story I hear, every life we touch at this center. Change isn't a destination, it's a journey, and I'm finally on the right path. They walked inside together, into the light, into the warmth, into the community, into the space where invisible people became visible, where forgotten people were remembered, where diminished people reclaimed their dignity, and somewhere in the offices above, Abena's old uniform hung in a locker. She still worked as a cleaner, still needed the income, still pushed the cart, still wiped the floors. But now, she did it differently. She did it with her head high. She did it with purpose. She did it knowing that her job didn't define her, that her worth existed beyond her work, that she was always more than what people saw. She was Professor Mensah's daughter, Dr. Mensah's daughter, a mother, a friend, a change-maker, a survivor, a fighter, a queen who forgot her crown for a while but never truly lost it. And most importantly, she was herself, fully, completely, unapologetically. That was enough. That was everything. That was her victory. The doors to the Mensah Center closed for the night, but they would open again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, opening for everyone who needed to be seen, everyone who needed to remember, everyone who needed to reclaim, because that's what the center was for, not just services, not just programs, but transformation, from invisible to visible, from forgotten to remembered, from diminished to dignified, one person at a time, one story at a time, one life at a time, starting with Abena's. If this story touched you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, someone who feels invisible, someone who forgot who they are, someone who needs to remember that circumstances don't define worth, that survival is strength, that every person carries a story that matters. Drop a comment below. Tell us your story. Tell us where you're watching from and tell us what spoke to you. Let's build a community. Let's see each other. Let's remember together, because we all deserve to be seen. We all deserve to be valued. We all deserve to remember who we are, every single one of us. No exceptions. See you in the next one, besties.